and welcome to another video from Koiro. This time it's a video about the C64, and I know it's not your favorite, not everyone's favorite topic, but when it comes to repairs, it's my all-time favorite, even though I can get a bit bored of it at some times because most of the faults I've experienced them before, so it's not much yet to learn, but I still get surprises and I try to use new tools, look at things from new angles and so on. And this time I am testing out some new equipment to make videos. These C64 videos will be less edited and there will be less tutorial material than it has been in my previous videos. So I will rather link to my other videos and encourage you to go back and watch my back catalog of in-depth videos about the C64. I do have a lot of tutorials and things about the C64, and some of this is unique on the YouTube, and some of it other has done better, or at least the same level as me, but at least on the C2N, the power brick, and some of the other faults inside the C64, I do have the best materials for fault finding. At least what I have seen so far. Maybe someone has done better than me after I published the videos, but I did look wide and broad to find others that have given the necessary level of detail to be able to call yourself an expert in the field. But this time it's twofold. I'm going to repair a C64, and I'm also going to test the filming environment where I use an overhead webcam mounted as a camera behind me, and I'm also going to test out some other sets for filming the picture of a C64 when we fault find. So, onto the bench. Yeah, I'm testing a new setup here for filming by my bench, and I've used this camera here, this Canon G7X, for some years now, and it's been working okay. And I do have some small problems with it, and it has an annoying flicker on the light if I get too low on the light. And there are some settings, of course, and I can fine-tune things, but I can't get it to work properly always. And I'm trying my way to this now. As you can see, this light source that I have is not the best light, but I'm using webcam, and it seems like it do good exposure. We have to see. This is kind of a test setup for this. I do have some trouble now with, you see here, with the light that is direct light. It gives some reflections. I didn't have much of that before, and I think I have some problems with focus and stuff. But this video is kind of a tryout for this, and I have unpacked some more of the stuff that was in the box from the last video, and I did have 3 of these SCART to HDMI connectors, and that is HDMI on this side. You have a power connector, and you can switch here between 1080 and 720p. So this is an active scale up device, and it also was powered by this connector for USB, so it's quite convenient to power it here on the desk. I have not done any setup of this, and I did run in some. I had 2 of these cables here that has SCART in one end and the 5-pin DIN in one end. And if I have 5-pin DIN on the Commodore, then it's not super video or component video, but or not separate Kruma Luma setup. It's not component. And if we open this, we should be able to open this, yeah, like so. Yeah, okay, so this is, I do think that this is only audio and video. on the SCART plug. Let's see, it should fit like so. And this goes in like so, and just connect this again. So this SCART cable is only to use composite video, and that's quite okay. And I do have this doohickey here that is another cable that 5 pinned in. I'm not sure what it's really meant for. This is said that it's from amigakit.com, but this is a normal cable. I do have more like this, so it's 2 audio outputs and 1 composite video. And this adapter was also included here, and it also has a pass-through device. I do have some of these adapters from before, but this is one of the better ones. And oh, I see here now, this was a common fault back in the day, or not fault, but this SCART cable here is, if you see here, these pins are kind of sunk in from the top of the shielding, and they should be. The shielding should make contact first to make transfer of static electricity and other things, so it should be grounded first so we don't destroy anything. But these kind of cables, they are kind of loose, so they very loose fitting in this, and these blades here barely go into these connectors here. And this is slightly better. You can see here it's only about 1.5 mil recessed, or maybe it's 2 mil, but when I connect it like so, it's much better. And in this one I only have, this is only for audio and composite video as well, even though it's SCART, because you only have the 4 pins on this side and the ground and 1 on this side. So it's composite video that is doing the scale up, and that's okay. And I will test this, but of course it's not wise to test everything at once, so I might have to do my normal composite video to my LCD monitor first before I try anything of these. And I also unpacked this. This is the C64 Diag cartridge. And this is another kind than I have before, because this is a 4-in-1. I do have several of these, and of course if you saw my Commodore 128 video, we did a lot of Diag cartridges for the C128 as well. And you have 2 sets of data here, so this PROM is probably a 256 PROM or 512, I don't know. And they have this set 1 and 2, and you have dead test and diagnostics. And the first, if I have this in 1 and this in dead test and diagnostics, it's the normal diagnostics Commodore, the 586220. It's the plus version. And if I set this into set 2, then the diagnostics is the 1541 for the floppy drive test. And it's another dead test, STD V1.20. I'm not sure. I'm not very familiar with the dead test. I use the normal dead test in some videos, but I'm not very fond of it. It do tell me about memory issues and stuff, but it's not very reliable. And I have not even tested the new dead test cartridge thingy that is available now. It's probably not something I'm going to find very valuable anyway. But this was accompanied with this one, and this is a test harness, and this is quite a big test harness, so it will be able to reach also on 128 DCR and 128. And it has all the connectors, and this is a much more sturdy device than my homemade one. I did have another one back in the day, but I gave it away to some guy, and I had my homemade one, and it's working quite good. And this also was accompanied by this one that should plug into the serial IAC connector. So this, I've grabbed it from the box so that we should be able to use this as part of or bench testing of the 64s, and I'm going now to go grab the one that we had out in the shed, the first one with the sad looking keyboard, and of course the broken back hinges on the case. So I'm going to grab that one, and we are going to test it here on the bench. And when we do the tests here, I'm going to use my trusty old power brick. That is the one that I've used for now several years, and it served me well. And if you remember back in the Resurrection series, I had one red, one green and one blue power supply, so I don't mix them up. And the blue one has been permanently fixed to my desk here now for several years. It do have a switch mode 5 volt ingrained, but it's a normal plasticky beige foot warmer power brick. Yes, this is the C64 from my shed. I do have the keys here and the one spring, and you can actually see there are some yellowed spider webs and stuff here. It actually seems like a combination of pet hairs and spiders. Yeah, not a very inviting sight, and you can see all the tabs here are broken off. There are some replacement things that can be printed, but these have at least 3 different kinds, so we do have to see that is the one that fits here. And here you can see this is very dirty, the paper cover. It's actually, I'm not sure what to say. It does look untouched, and here it had one RAM chip that was changed originally back in the day, and the other is Micron 150 nanosecond, and this one is changed. And you do have the multiplexers are Moose, and this one I don't remember, is the 158 something is Moose, and you also have the 7406 is a Moose chip. So I do see that this is kind of overexposed on the light here from the top. I will try to make this a little less direct light. If I turn off one of the light sources, like so, that was better, but it will be a bit darker, but it's easier to see now, I think. So sorry for that, but as I said, I'm kind of experimenting here with the setup. And otherwise it looks totally original, and this is a 407 board, 250 revision B. And as I said, this is made in 84. It's the 19th week of 84, 23rd week of 84, 22nd week, 20th week. I don't know if anything else has dates here. And it has a plastic wick chip, also from the 23rd week of 84. So this is probably made sometime in 1984. But does it work? I can't see why not. A lot of people always say, oh, these Commodores have dead PLAs and dead so and dead so. I don't encounter that much. So I don't relate very good to those problems, because I have not changed a single PLA from a machine with a black screen. But I do have some boards with missing PLAs where I've used other PLAs. But in the last 3 years, since I took up this on this channel, I've not encountered one defect PLA that the symptom was the PLA. I only repaired board where the PLA was missing. And also the faults I had, I think I had one fault with a PLA, and that was a decoding error, so it didn't have a black screen, but it did have some strange noise on the output on one of the lines. But I'm not going to clean this now, I'm just going to double check my power brick. This was a doohickey I made as a power supply tester, and it actually works quite good. I do have all these resistor packs that is putting strain on the power rails on the power supply to make it perform under load, but in this case I do think I'm only going to just measure out what the power supply, yeah, this is the power supply and it is turned on. Yeah, I did do some rebuild of this to be able to put something in between here, but I don't even remember what I did, but I should be able to measure the output here. Yeah, probably this has to be connected somewhere, I don't remember anymore, but I should be able to measure the power rails here. I do remember I put some jumpers here, but I will just measure straight on the plugs. This is the 5 volt and it's okay, spot on, and this should be the AC line and it's 11.58C, and that is quite normal. You know, back in the day the AC output was more correct, but we have added the line voltage, amended the line voltage to be not 220 volt, it's more than 230 at least in my case. So I can of course put this light back on. You can do see if we get some overlight, and we do. It's a very, very dim red light in these Commodores. I did remember I heard back in the day that the LEDs was working infinitely, and they are kind of, but they are getting weaker and weaker, and they already was kind of dim back in the day. So this receives power, and I need to test out this setup here with this SCART and other setup. So if I do connect this like so and use this doohickey here like so, connect the power, it's connected already, and I do connect this to my SCART cable, and if I turn on the monitor it comes as a no signal on the HDMI. Sorry, the capture was not working when I did this last time, so I have to try to turn it on again and hope I get the same beautiful fault as I did last time. And here you can see it in all its sparkling glory. So this is the fault we have on this C64. So we are going to diagnose this one, and I'm going to take the motherboard out and I'm going to try to clean it a bit. Yeah, I'm just going to unscrew what I need to. No, this was the wrong one. This is the one fastening this bracket here. It's a machine screw, 3mm. So it's these small gray ones that attach the board to the cardboard and the bottom of the case. also, yeah, this can also, you can take out the socketed chips, or I actually can leave them in for this. This actually was loose in the socket. Should we test and see if that actually did something, because this is in the video circuitry. Oh, sorry, I do need to connect the video as well. No, it's the same sparkly as last time. So just this, take this out and give it a good clean, and you can see here how dirty this case is. And you can see underneath, this is one of the boards with this extra padding on the soldering, and it's a very sturdy board. You don't get any breaks in the PCB on this one. And here you can see the chip that was changed, and this is the screw for the terminal on the 5-volt regulator here. Here you can see the chip that was changed afterwards, and if this is done as a repair, or if, oh sorry, it was behind here, if this is done as a repair, or this is factory default, or it was repaired at the factory, I mean, it doesn't show. But this is, yeah, it's an old soldering, that's for sure, and it's a really old chip. It's a ceramic case on this, and it's made actually, yeah, if I can see that there actually is a date code on this one, and it's 85/44th week, I think. So this chip was probably changed afterwards with a fault. And we, as I've told before, when we repaired these chips back in the day, we didn't even desolder them. We used a snippet like this, cut off all the legs, desoldered all the legs, put in a new chip, and we just soldered it from this side without taking out the board. Very efficient repair, but of course not the best. So I will be cleaning this board and get back. Yes, now this board is washed. I just washed it in yeah, about hot water, and I dried it off. It's been standing now for actually almost 2 days. And there are some small slivers of corrosion here, and that is where all the dust was. So this dust, when it's laying on these metals, it's collecting moisture and it's keeping it inside the component's leg. So that's why it's wise to do some housekeeping from time to time. And this now looks very clean and inviting. You can see here the heat paste that was here is kind of dried out, but that will be replaced. And also the TV modulator, I have not done anything inside this, as I hadn't desoldered this, and it's also possible that some water can slip in between here, but I was careful not to use too much water around this. But otherwise, this now looks good and clean, and we are able to touch this without getting anxious. We do have some chips in a socket, and it can be wise to check if they are in the socket and if there is any corrosion and stuff here. Yeah, like so. And we did test this last time, and we had this pattern on the screen, and I'm going to test this again after the wash to see if it is the same. Plug this in. The power is on the power supply, and on here, yeah, it's exactly the same as it was. So we can try to plug in our new acquired cartridge and use this as a diagnostic and see how that fares. That is set 1, and diagnostics is like so, and this off, and try this. Yeah, we can see that this probably is working somewhat, because it did show up something on the screen, but yeah, nothing much. And we can also turn this in dead test mode and see how it fares with blinking and stuff. Yeah, it might be some trickery with the conversions and stuff, but it does appear to be a blank screen. I have not tested this test cartridge, but we do have another dead test with setting this to set 2 and dead test, and we try again. It's just the same. So what do we do to diagnose this? And we probably already know that there is some bad RAM chips on these micro RAM chips. They are one of the few circuits where I go after them on a C64. Otherwise, I don't have any experience with any chips being worse than others. So we try to get out some measuring equipment to see what's happening here. We can, of course, see if there are some life at all. And this is my my logic probe, and this should be connected to 5 volts for logical levels, and it should be connected to ground. And we can measure out where we have 5 volt. So this is 4.86 volt, that's good with Commodore specs. And this is also a ground wire. So where do we find 5 volt on this? Close by, hopefully. We do have some capacitors here that we can use for this. So if I put the minus lead or the ground here for a sturdy connection, and I can shows not that one, but this one will give me 5 volt. So like so for the probe in TTL modus, and pulse not memory, and I can check this should be high and this should be low. And if I measure here, yeah, you should have the pulses. Yeah, let's get out the data sheet for this one. Fault finding is in many cases a hit or miss game, and sometimes you have to try things, but my view is that you need to gather as much information as you can before you start, and this is a great place to start. And this side, I don't know how often it is updated, but I do see some changes here from time to time, and I have not contributed to this site. I have found every fault I want. I've found them here, but often after that I have found the fault on the board the manual way. But I was thinking of showing you this. What you see up here in the picture is a picture of our fault. You can see the screen is kind of garbled, and it was sparkling when we looked into this. And this page contains, as you can see, pictures of common faults and the screenshots from your Commodore 64, and it contains a description of what can be wrong. And this is displayed for each chip. If it's the first CIA, this is common faults. If it's the second CIA, this is common faults. Here you have something that might look a bit like But in our screen we do have a black image, black screen and some colors. And if the basic ROM is gone, then you have this, and then you have this for the kernel ROM. And of course it can be, I'm thinking more along the lines of the character ROM if there is some fault, but of course the kernel ROM is an easy fix, the same with the character ROM. And you have the color RAM, then you will have the picture in the background, and it's just color or artifacts that's in is garbling the screen. And you also have some of these faults, and you have U7, that is the CPU, that can also cause all kind of mysterious faults, but the color garbling here does not look anything like our screen. And then we are back at memory chips, and then you can see all other kinds of faults again. And we do have something that looks a bit alike, but it's not totally the same. And you have some of the logic chips that can be bad. And this is the U-Station CMOS quadrilateral. This is the 4066s, and that also goes to the color RAM. And nothing looks quite the same here. And you can see here you do have some PLA faults. Here you have something that can resemble this fault in some way. None of this except this one and this a black screen. And you can have the SID chip, it locks up the system. You have the VIC chip, it can also cause these kind of faults, but nothing looks totally the same. And here you have more garbled screens, and all this displays some kind of characters on screen, but you do have some strange occurrences here. And that is one of the logic chips. You have the U26 logic chip, also have some garbled screens. And you do have another garbled screen that does not look like ours. And you have the oscillator fault, that's more artifacts in the picture. And of course if the fuse is blown, then you only have snow on the screen. And you have some capacitor faults, not what we are experiencing here. And you do have some traces broken. I actually have found more of these faults. The traces can be broken and give any of the chip faults. You don't know if it's the chip or if it's a faulty trace somewhere. But we have the high quality 407 board with the thick layer of tinned traces on the back of the PCB. And you have some more power supply garbled stuff. We have measured the power supply, it's doing okay. And we also have here Ray's Picto guide. It's broken. All Ray Carlson's sites is taken down. There is a mirror somewhere on the Wayback Machine, I think. As of now, I'm not really sure what to make of this. Of course, we can check a bit around the kernel chips, but some of the cartridges and some of the other stuff should be working if we don't have the kernel or the memory chip. So I will just poke around a bit with the logic probe and see what we can find. I do have my helping hand here, just a printout of some of the pins for this. And as we saw on the pictorial guide, you do have some suspects when it comes to these kind of faults, and the ROM chips was one of the things. And of course the ROM chips, there are two different sizes here, and the kernel and the basics are 8K, and the character set is 4K. And I'm just going to poke around to see if they got, oh sorry, if they have the address lines and stuff. Data lines. These should be the same we measured on the memory chips. This should be the chip enable line. A12 is probably not used. When I'm using the logic probe like this, it's to establish that every pin of these is having a pulse, so that I know that the address lines and the data bus is working, and also get some idea of the control signals. This is no foolproof way of fault finding, but at least it will give me an idea where things stops working, because everything here that does have a pulse, it is kind of working, and even though the chip itself might be bad, the buses and the control lines are working. Yeah, we can check the other lines as well. The data line should be the same on every one of these. And you have the address lines, the rest of them. Even though I start measuring here, I still have a pretty good idea that one of the memory chips, at least one of the memory chips, are bad, because none of the self-test cartridges was working. So I do think that we have some memory issues here, but it can be in the bus driver and it can be other places. So that's why I'm starting here, to establish that the address and data bus is working as it should. Yeah, at least there is no broken traces. And I do think the PLA also is working as it should. All the chip selects are going as they should. And the clock is probably okay. The clock is pin 1. Pin 2 is the RDI signal, IRQ signal. NME should be that, yes. AEC. And of course VCC should be high. And this is all address lines. This is the programmable ports. They are steering the cassette and the bank switching. This is reset and it's high. Clock out goes as it should. Read write goes as it should. It seems like everything is running, and that makes me think it's not the kernel ROM. But it could of course be the character ROM that was totally bad. But what's the implication of that? It's showing characters on the screen, because all the blanks on the screen is also a character. But I was thinking that the dead test cartridge was bypassing the character ROM. But I might be mistaken. But I'm going to test with my my old diagnostic cartridge and see what happens. Yeah, here I have two of them. It's my original one, or original. I bought this back some years ago. And the dead test cartridge takes a while to get it to produce something, because it should be giving us the flashes when it's testing memory, but it's not. So it appears totally dead, and it's the same result as we had with the other dead test cartridge. This dead test is... So this is the dead cache, that is the diagnostic. And here you can see it actually testing and giving us a picture on the screen. But I will keep it like so to see if it's actually changing, because I do think if this is running, and we can of course confirm if it's running or not with the probe. I can test here. You have the chip selects that goes here on the 5th pin here. This is not selecting. This is selecting. And this is selecting. So it's bypassing the kernel, but doing the others. Or this is the kernel actually. This is the basic ROM. The basic ROM is not. But the kernel here is accessed. And the character ROM is accessed. And the memory chips, the data out, of course. We have already established that the data is doing what it should. But I don't see any changes on the screen, but I will wait a bit more and check. Yeah, it's pretty clear to me that anything else is not going to happen. And of course we do have a classic here, the international soccer. Just to have tested that too. And it's totally blank. It actually makes me suspect that there can be something wrong with the PLA, not something that we encounter often. And there can be something wrong with both the memory chips and the ROM chips. So how do we diagnose the memory chips if there is some faulty chips on these, and do we have outputs and stuff? I can check to see if anything gets warm. I can of course test this without this cartridge. So I get the normal garbled screen. The most common fault I had back in the day on these was CPU that was broken because people managed to short anything on this cassette port, and you had the CIAs that broke because people was plugging in and out the joysticks. You notice that the SID chip is getting warm, and normally my best practice is actually to take out the SID chip whenever I'm doing fault finding. It's because the SID chips, they are quite valuable, and I don't want to mess with them anything more than I want, but it normally doesn't affect anything. But you can see here now we actually got some more garbles in the screen. I take it off and on again. No, it's the same. It's just, yeah, some mishaps with the reset when you're turning on and off. Yeah, it's the same screen. So my first thought is that we do have a faulty memory chip, and that this is affecting the 0 page and the 400 address where the screen is located. But we also do have some fault with colors. Could be the color RAM, but it also can be the memory that is producing this. And when it's memory that is at fault, I do normally also suspect every MOS chip. And let's do a test on these MOS chips and see what's happening. One of the more common fault I'm experiencing with these C64, and especially the ones that has MOS manufactured chips, and these two chips here is the memory multiplexing circuits that helps with the memory refresh and stuff. And U13 is this one, and U25 is this one. I will actually keep it like so you can see behind the screenshot screen here. This is the U13, it's this one, and U25 is this one. And it's not the best copy I have here, but what you will have here is that you should have signal on every pin here, except the ones that is tied to ground, the control signals here. 15 and 16 is tied to the AAC. AAC should also give signal. So I'm just turning this on and probing here on the U25. If you start with 1, okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 should be ground, and 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 should be VCC. And then I do the same exercise on U13. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So these two appears to have signals on all legs, and that's a good thing. And we can also see that they get the EIC line, this one. It should sound the same on both. Yes, so these two appears to be working. Let's check the temperature now it's been standing for a while. This is getting much hotter than this one. We did check that it had all the signals, but of course there can be some. But there could be something with the waveforms. But let's check out this other mouse chip over at the end here. And this is 7406, that's an inverter. So this is low, then this is high, this is pulsing, then this is pulsing. This is low, then this is high, and low, high, high, low, high. Yeah. So that too is working. I will take out the scope and measure this one because this was getting hot to the touch, very hot, or not very hot in Commodore manner. All the chips in the C64 are getting quite hot. Yeah, but this leaves me a bit puzzled. But I will take out my scope and check some of the signals here. Yeah, what we are going to check here is this pair of chips here, the multiplexers and the 257s. And I'm going to check here with my scope. This is the VCC, it should be stable. Oh. Turn it on, then it's much better. VCC, it should be stable. And here you have some nice squares. And oh, this is kind of loaded. It's some sawtooth. That means that there is some capacitive load here, or there is some resistive load that is taking the capacitance on this down. And yeah, there you have some more. And if I check here, this is input. Oh, and you have the same here. Let's check this to compare with this one. We did have this signal out on this, and the U25, yeah, it did look like this. So I do think we have a culprit here. This was the one. And if I compare here, yeah, there are squares. So I do think this is the culprit. And why didn't we hear anything with the probe? Yeah, because it's switching between the levels just fine. Yeah, so it's within the levels, but it's dragging something. So maybe this is loaded down by a memory chip or something, but I do think that we are going to replace this one. Yeah, just going to disconnect and maybe see if I can grab my desoldering gun. Yeah, I'm making markings on this ship. Yeah, it should be this one. I just double check. U13, that one, yes. So then it's the desoldering gun. And my desoldering gun is this Hacko 301, FR301, and I did order a new tip for this, but I have not received it yet. And I do sometimes experience that when it's long time since I used it, that it's clogged up. But let's turn it on and check. Normally on C64s I don't add any new solder, I don't preheat or anything, because normally this is very easy to desolder. When I'm doing this, I'm also bending the legs so they will stand upright by rotating this. And probably I will need the hot air gun. I'm not taking any chances with these PCBs. And I can see here that there is some solder stuck on one of these pins. We do have the resistor lines here. And I do remember I had one C64 board that I got where there was not a very bad connection, but someone has desoldered this ship and there was a connection missing underneath here. So the soldering was okay, but there was this hairline crack between the pad and the line. I'm grabbing the hot air. There really is no reason to take chances with this. Yeah, I'm going to heat this from the bottom and try first without adding any pressure on the part. I can of course take the screwdriver. I'm just giving a gentle push from the top of the legs. Yeah, let's hope that didn't make anything crack. It's less than perfect, that's for sure. Did we rip out any tracks? We might, because I can see some. Yeah, it's very difficult to see this without a magnifying glass. But I will take some good solder wick and clean this up. There's actually something inside here that do resemble I take one of my extremely sharp needles and you can see this one. It actually contains some And that is the one from the third from the bottom here. It doesn't matter much, because if it's not this one, but I can measure that. But I have to take on my special magnifying glasses to actually be able to watch this. But Mr. Fluke will be able to measure that for us, and it's from this one to this one, and it's okay. Yeah, I will just put a socket in this and try with a new chip. Just decommission this one. Yeah, that should be it. And let's test with a new 257 chip. Yeah, this should be a new old stock chip. One of my last. I do think I have 2 more of these. Otherwise, I do have to go for Chinesium, as most of us have to do. Not because of the TTL chips, almost all of them is possible to get from other sources, but they are extremely expensive. At least some of the types that was common back in the day and are not so common anymore. So let's see here. Video connect. Yeah, out of memory in 1. That means that we fixed the first fault, but then we are over in memory line, I think. And the diagnostic, will that help us? We can actually try our new fancy diagnostic cartridge with the 4-in-1. And this is diagnostic, then it's set 1. And diagnostic, it should be like so. Power off. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be counting at all. You do have some artifacts here on the screen that is blinking. The 2 chips that U9 and U11 is bad. It actually is the memory chips that is reported, U9 and U11. U9 is this one, and U11 is this one. Yeah, we will just desolder this at once. We will try to change them one by one to see if they're actually all are bad. Someone seems to think that these will be, if one is broke, everyone will break, and of course eventually everything will break, but let's take U9 first. U9, it's the second chip here, it's this one. Yeah, I did the desoldering on camera, off camera I mean, and I've soldered in a socket, and I find this KM4164B 150, so that should be okay, and place that in the socket like so. A new test. Last time we got that it was 9 and 11 that was bad. Power off. In with the diag. It's still U9 bad. You don't have the artifacts in there anymore. You do have the U11 bad, but it's not running anymore, so it's something wrong with the 0 page. but we take the U11 as well. This kind of memory fault can actually be twofold, because if the memory chip is not totally bad, but there are some addresses that's not working, and in this case we do get the screen. We do know that the screen memory is probably okay, but from a C64 standpoint, we have all the addresses from 00 to 800. All of that are filled with special errors for the C64, so it will get different errors. So that means that the first test is actually detecting this chip as bad, but another test that is testing in a random memory pattern and address pattern will mark another chip as bad if they have different memory errors where they are not working. So in this case, when we are getting a picture, we do know that some of the memory at least is okay, otherwise we should get some artifacts in the picture. And of course, if the ROM chips are working, then it's the stack and other memory registers that we need that is not working, so it's getting stuck. And the soldering and desoldering is going at 5x speed, so we're almost finished. Yeah, at least now that should be okay. So we have two of these out, and I need a second of these. And of course these can be bad. I do think I have tested them before, but of course everything can happen with these when they are just in storage. Probably this C64 also was going bad when it was in storage. Still U9 and U11 bad. So I do think I will do some more analysis of this, because it locks up. And U11 and U9. If we look at this U11 and U9, that's data bit 1 and data bit 5 they are marking as bad. And could this data bit be going wrong somewhere else? Yeah, it might be, but it also can be that there are some more bits stuck everywhere else. But at least it's strange that we are getting these two as a fault. And if I test with another cartridge, not the dead test, but I take this one. We can of course test with the dead test also. Yeah, this actually was the same version as that one. But if we take the dead test, yeah, it do seem like it's two rapid blinks. Yeah, two flashes. That means that U24 is the new culprit, and what we had before was U11 and U9. And I don't know if this board is misinterpreted to be some kind of immediate version or something, because you have the version 3 boards, it's U9 and U10, because it's 4 bits in each chip. But here we only have 1 bit in each chip, and it should be very strange and confusing if it's still missing bit 1 and bit 5, and still we get the fault here for U24, and that's bit 6. So a bit confusing, but we are already under our way to change out this memory chip. So let's finish up that job. So with the new socket in place, it's just to put in a new memory chip, and it's the same kind as the other ones. It's a 4164 with the same brand as the other. And then we are going to give it a test, and we still have the dead test cartridge plugged in, so we will see a black screen with some flashes if there is snow. You can see here that it's booting into the test. Yeah, I'm going to speed this up a bit, but this test is not so true as the one that is in the diagnostic test. So I'm going to let this run to see if there is any fault, and after that we are just going to make a new test with the normal diagnostic. Yeah, and that was the first round without any errors. Yeah, I'm going to change now to the other diagnostics, and I'm also going to change to the other cartridge, because I said initially that there was no difference between them, but I noticed this when I went through the footage that there actually is, because the new cartridge, it's 2 pluses after the version name, but on my it's just 1, so there are some small differences there. What they are, I'm not sure, but we are going to use the most updated version that is on the cartridge with the switches. And as we can see now, there is no 4164 errors. So we have fixed the fault, but why it was showing the wrong ICs, we still don't know. To make a throughout test, we do have to fix the harness. So after this round, we are going to take another round with the harness and also with the SID chip in, so that we can test for audio. Yeah, and connecting this harness is a lot cleaner and less messy than my other one. And I don't need to clean the contacts. This seems like gold-plated good contacts. Yeah, I'm going to speed up the test until we come to the test of the SID chip. We will see if there is any errors that is discovered now with the test harness in. Everything else is working okay, but this SID chip is definitely not okay. It's missing the noise channel, it seems, and also the filters are bad, so this is not a fully working SID chip. Yes, and now we have these 4 chips that we have changed. 3 memory chips and 257. And I do also have 1 RAM chip here. I took out 1 more and 1 socket more when I was catching the spare parts. And I did get another chip test in the package I got, but I'm going to use my trusty old Chip Tester Pro for this. It did fail me on the CMOS testing from the coin flipper game that was made in Norway. I did actually encounter some problems with that, but this is standard 5 volt logic, and I always had good luck in testing the memory chips with single rail 5 volt at least in this tester. And now we are testing this with the USB 5 volt supply. I will check to see if I can get some more contrast on this to be able to read it on screen, or I must do what I normally do. I just turn off the overhead lights like so, and then the picture will get real dark. I think this is the best we are going to get with this camera setup. And I'm going to select DRAM common, okay, and 4164, this is this kind, and we are just giving it a go, and it's okay. One more time to start it, and it failed right away. And this one, Yeah, it also failed right away, but it did count some addresses. And the last one. This actually passed the test. So this was probably, I will check here. This was actually the first one I took out. So this is the, yes, it's the first one, but this actually has maybe some solder blobs here that can lie to us when we test. And does this has the same? No, it does not. And neither does this. So are we going to test this again? This was the first one that failed straight away. Yeah, it did fail on 1BB address. And now I mixed them up. I have to check, was this the one that was not faulty? No, it was not. So then it's this one. Yeah, it was this one. I'm probably never going to use this chip again in an actually fail finding or enterprise where I want to make sure that I have good components, but at least it's working so I can use it as a test piece in some capacity. I'm strongly against just throwing away and swapping every part, for as you can see, this is one memory chip that actually has survived. Oh no, my pen is not working. See now if it's working. Yeah, it was not a very good drawing, but at least it's okay. So we tested this twice. This memory chip actually is good. But then what about the 257? The multiplexer? We did see that it got hot. We did also see that it gave the desired logical results, but it had these triangular waveforms. So I'm going to reset and select logic, OK, and 74 logic. Should be a 257, but they are going faster in the end. There. 2-in-1 multiplexer. Okay. And it failed straight away. So we did do some right and we did do some wrong. So we changed 4 chip and only 3 of them was bad. Maybe I should have used the dead test cartridge again, or that might not have given us any better results. I do still think that it probably will have mixed the results. But anyway, we do have a working Commodore 64 here, and we have managed to fix the fault, and it was a fault with 3 defect chips. 2 of them was the empty RAM chips and 1 MOS chip, so these faults was not unexpected, but I will probably encounter more of these as I go along and fix the rest of the C64s. Will I be doing anything about this keyboard in this video? I'm not going to do that in this video, at least. I'm more into electronics than that's better. I'm not so much into the mechanical stuff, but I am going to sell away some C64s. I have a huge lot. I have far too many C64s and more than I ever will need. I have at least, as of now, I have given away some, but I probably have 20 bread boxes and 7 or 8 C64Cs. So in this video, we do have a working Commodore 64. I'm going to put this spring and these keys into a bag and put them inside the C64, and I'm not going to do anything more than just put this board away. So next video we are going to tackle a new C64. Yeah, I know that we know what the fault was. We can actually go back in the pictorial C64 fault guide and see if he was on the right track. And what we did change first was the U13 logic. And we was into this, and we actually thought that this picture here kind of looked a lot like what we had. But we did have some other faults, and they was not, what should I say, they was glimmering a bit. And they also state here that a faulty PLA can cause a similar pattern, and they have some other notice. But I do think that the memory fault together with this actually explained the problem. And if we go to the top again and check that we have RAM chips, we do actually see here that we do have some common faults here. And of course all of these are caused by different memory stuff, but this one was what we got when we changed the 257 chip and hadn't changed any memory. So that was an easy one. But I do think a combination of what we had can explain the fault we experienced with the U13 logic. So this combined with the memory fault actually explained our fault. So we didn't get an exact match with this pictorial guide, but we was on the right track even if we have started here and have no other means of help. But the most likely one that we picked, the character ROM, it was not the fault. Yeah, this was a rather easy one. I didn't use much time. It was some desoldering and soldering. I could have used it much more efficient, but I wanted to save as many chips as possible. And I also wanted to do this a bit entertaining. Otherwise, I will just desolder the most chips. I will have snipped off the memory chips and replaced everything and fixed and done. But I do feel that this kind of situation where there are modern replacement chips for most of what's in a Commodore 64, but just to put the chips at risk and in harm and changing chips that is not broken, I don't think we are going to last more than 5 or 10 years. Then we have burned through all our old stock components. So it's a finite resource, so we need to preserve this. So that's why I don't just go about and changing chips willy-nilly until I get something to work. I try to keep the damage on innocent chips as low as possible. So hope you enjoyed the content. We have more C64 videos coming up. So take care and hope to see you next time.